mansion sat on a hill, grand and elegant, overlooking the city below. Its walls were painted white and gold, and the windows reflected the sunlight like mirrors. Inside, every room was filled with expensive furniture, rare paintings, and toys that cost more than a normal person could earn in a year. But despite all the beauty and wealth, one room felt different. It was quiet, almost too quiet, and filled with a sense of longing. That room belonged to the millionaire's daughter. She was 12 years old, with dark eyes that held curiosity and a mind full of dreams. But there was one thing she couldn't do. She couldn't walk. Since birth, her legs had not worked properly. Doctors had tried different therapies, medicines, and machines, but nothing seemed to help. Her father, a powerful and busy man, had spared no expense. He had bought every machine and hired every expert he could find. But still, she spent most of her days in her wheelchair, looking out the windows or playing quietly with her toys. She had everything she could wish for except the freedom to move on her own. Even with all the luxury around her, she felt lonely. The house was big and staff moved through the halls, but they were there to do their jobs, not to be her friends. She longed for someone who could see her as a person, not just as the millionaire's daughter who needed care. She wished for someone who could laugh with her, share secrets, and treat her like a normal kid. But in her world, that seemed impossible. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the tall windows of her room, she asked her father if she could go outside into the garden. He hesitated, frowning. The garden was large and open, and he worried about her safety. But seeing the hopeful look in her eyes, he finally agreed, arranging for a wheelchair and assistance to help her. The garden was beautiful. Flowers of every color lined the paths, and trees swayed gently in the breeze. The fountain in the center sparkled as water danced in the sunlight. She watched the fish swim lazily in the pond and the birds flit from branch to branch. For a moment, she forgot about her wheelchair and the limits her body had placed on her. She felt a tiny spark of freedom, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. As she moved slowly along the garden paths, she noticed something unusual. Near the gate that led to the street, a boy was playing. He couldn't have been much older than her, but he was different from anyone she had seen before. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed, and his hands were covered in dirt. Yet he moved with a confidence and energy that surprised her. He ran, jumped, and laughed with a joy she had never felt inside her walls. She watched him from a distance, curious and mesmerized. He didn't seem to care about anyone else, didn't worry about rules or restrictions. He was free in a way she had only imagined. Her heart beat faster as she realized she wanted to know him, to talk to him, to understand the world he came from. The boy noticed her staring. He paused mid-run, his dark eyes meeting hers. He smiled broadly and waved. She froze, unsure what to do. No one had ever waved at her like that before. Not genuinely, not with real friendliness. She hesitated, but finally waved back, a small, shy gesture. It was the first real interaction she had had in years, and it made her heart feel lighter than it had in a long time. The next day, she found herself looking out the window again, hoping to see him. And there he was, sitting on the edge of the sidewalk, sketching something in the dust with a stick. She could see the concentration on his face, the way he smiled at his own drawings. Something about him was different. He wasn't rich, he didn't have a fancy house, but he had a spirit she had never known existed. She began to look forward to these moments more than anything. Every day she would watch him from her window or from the garden, learning small things about him. He had a way of turning ordinary moments into something magical. He found games in simple objects, laughter in nothing at all. It made her think that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than the walls that surrounded her. At first, her father noticed her distracted gaze and scolded her gently. He didn't understand why she was so fascinated with a street boy, someone who had no manners, no education, no family wealth. To him, he was trouble waiting to happen, but she couldn't explain why she felt drawn to him. There was something in his eyes, something unspoken, that made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt before. One afternoon, the girl decided she wanted to see him up close. She asked her father if she could roll closer to the gate. He hesitated, worry lines crossing his forehead, but finally agreed, insisting that the staff follow closely behind. She moved slowly, her wheelchair rolling over the grass paths, heart pounding with excitement and nervousness. As she approached the boy, he looked up and grinned. He didn't run away or act scared. Instead, he waved again and patted the ground beside him. She rolled closer and he said something that made her laugh, a small joke about the flowers and the way her wheelchair made tracks on the grass. She laughed harder than she had in years, a sound so genuine that it made her father pause and watch silently from a distance. They began to talk, sharing small stories. She told him about the mansion, her toys, her lessons, and her dreams. He listened, really listened, without pity or judgment. Then he told her about the streets, about his friends, the games they played, the little victories and challenges of his life. She realized he had a world completely different from hers, yet it felt exciting and alive. Every day they met at the same spot, finding a small connection that grew stronger with each meeting. He showed her small tricks he learned, like balancing stones or making flowers into tiny decorations. She shared her favorite books and drawings. It was the first time in her life she felt like a normal child, laughing, learning, and discovering with a friend. The girl began to look at her life differently. She saw that the world outside the mansion had challenges, yes, but it also had creativity, freedom, and strength that money couldn't buy. She felt a spark of hope, a wish that maybe one day she could experience life beyond the walls and windows that had defined her existence. Her father, watching from a distance, began to notice the change in her. She seemed happier, more alive, more determined. Yet he still didn't understand the boy's influence, seeing only a poor street child where she saw a friend and guide. He worried about her safety, about the risks of trusting someone from outside their controlled world. But the girl didn't care. She had found someone who made her believe in possibilities again, someone who could see her as she wanted to be seen, not as fragile, not as a project, but as a person. As the days went by, their friendship grew quietly. She learned to laugh without fear, to dream without limits, to imagine a life where she could walk, run, and explore. She didn't know it yet, but this boy, with his simple life and fearless spirit, would soon change everything about her world. And for the first time in her sheltered life, she felt ready for the transformation to come. The next morning, the girl woke up with a sense of excitement that she hadn't felt in a long time. She couldn't wait to see the boy again. Her father was in his study, busy with phone calls and meetings, so she quietly got ready and wheeled herself toward the garden. She moved carefully, savoring the moment when sunlight touched her face and the fresh air filled her lungs. The garden felt different now, not just beautiful but alive with possibility. She knew the boy would be there. Sure enough, he was. Sitting near the gate, he was drawing patterns in the dirt with a stick. When he noticed her, he waved and she waved back, smiling. Today he seemed to have a new energy, a different kind of focus. As she got closer, he greeted her warmly, not with words, but with a bright, encouraging smile. It made her heart feel lighter, and she realized how much she had looked forward to this friendship. They started talking about ordinary things, but in a way that felt special. She told him about the new book she had read, about the colorful illustrations and the adventures of the characters. He listened intently, asking questions and making comments that made her giggle. Then he shared stories about his day on the street, the friends he played with, the games they invented, and the little challenges they faced. She had never imagined a life like his, full of unpredictability and small victories, but it fascinated her. One day, while watching him move a small stick through the dirt, she noticed something unusual. He was showing her a way to lift small stones, stack them, and balance them carefully without them falling. She laughed at how focused he was, and he laughed too, a rich, infectious sound that made her smile. Then he said something that caught her off guard. He had once helped a friend who had trouble walking, teaching him to move his legs again using simple exercises and patience. She was amazed. How could someone without money, without fancy machines, help someone walk? Her curiosity grew stronger. Could he teach her too? She wanted to try, even though she had tried so many things before and failed. She didn't know if it would work, but the idea of trying something different excited her. She asked him hesitantly if he could show her some of the exercises. The boy nodded and explained that they would take it slowly, step by step, and that the most important thing was to believe in herself. Over the next few days, they began a secret routine. He would come to the garden bringing small tools and objects he had made or found, and show her exercises to strengthen her legs. At first, she struggled, unable to hold herself up or move as he instructed. But he didn't scold or rush her. Instead, he encouraged her, saying that every small effort was a victory. His patience was unlike anything she had experienced from her doctors or assistants. He made her feel capable, hopeful, and alive. She began to anticipate these secret sessions more than anything else. Each time she felt a little braver and a little stronger. Some days she could lift her legs slightly. Other days she could hold herself up for a few seconds. The boy celebrated every small achievement, cheering her on, laughing with her and telling her how proud he was. For the first time, she felt that progress was possible, that she could actually hope to walk one day. Her father noticed subtle changes in her. She seemed more energetic, happier, and more confident. But he was still wary of the boy. In his eyes, the child from the street was reckless and untrustworthy. He couldn't understand why his daughter seemed so drawn to him. He thought that she might be imagining things, or that the boy's influence could be dangerous. Despite his concerns, he couldn't deny the happiness growing in her eyes. A happiness that hadn't been there for years. One afternoon, the girl asked the boy if he could show her a more challenging exercise. She wanted to try standing with his help, something she had never done before. He looked surprised but encouraged her, explaining the steps carefully. They set up a simple system using sticks and a small rope he had fashioned into a support. Slowly, gently, he guided her. She trembled and faltered, but each attempt brought her closer to standing. She could feel her muscles working in ways they hadn't before, and for the first time she experienced the thrill of her own effort creating movement. The boy shared his secret with her. He had no formal training, no certificates, no degree, but he had learned through observation, creativity, and experience. He had helped his younger sibling walk after an accident and had discovered techniques that worked. He understood how to encourage, how to make the body cooperate, and how to instill confidence in someone who had lost hope. The girl was amazed. How could someone so young and poor know so much? She realized that wisdom and talent weren't always found in wealth or classrooms. Sometimes they were found in life itself. As they continued their secret lessons, their bond deepened. The girl began to share more about her fears and dreams, things she had never told anyone before. She talked about how she wished she could run through the garden, play in the city streets, and feel the wind on her face without the weight of her disability holding her back. The boy listened, offering comfort and encouragement, telling her stories of others who had faced challenges and found ways to overcome them. His words gave her hope, and she began to believe that she might actually achieve what she once thought impossible. The father, despite his skepticism, began to notice that the girl's demeanor was changing. She seemed more confident, more willing to try things on her own. She laughed more, smiled more, and even seemed to dream more vividly. He couldn't figure out why, but he couldn't ignore the transformation taking place before his eyes. While he still worried, he couldn't help but feel a spark of curiosity himself, wondering what was causing this new light in his daughter's life. One day, the girl asked the boy if he could teach her a more advanced exercise, something that might help her move without the wheelchair. He hesitated for a moment but agreed. They worked slowly, carefully, step by step. Each time she stumbled, he reassured her. Each time she succeeded, he celebrated with her. The moments were small, but they were filled with meaning. She could feel her body responding, slowly awakening, discovering muscles and strength she had never known she possessed. The boy also taught her something even more important than exercises. He taught her belief in herself. Every day he reminded her that she could do it, that her mind and heart were just as strong as anyone else's. He showed her that limitations were often in the mind, and that courage, patience, and persistence could overcome almost anything. His lessons extended beyond physical movement. They touched her soul, her confidence, and her outlook on life. The girl began to feel changes not just physically, but emotionally. She laughed more freely, spoke with more confidence, and felt less afraid of trying new things. Her heart felt lighter, and she could sense that life held possibilities she had never imagined. The boy had become her guide, her friend, and her inspiration. She no longer felt trapped by the walls of her mansion or the limits of her body. She was discovering a new world, one step at a time. Meanwhile, the boy's own world had changed too. He had always lived with uncertainty, always having to find ways to survive. But helping the girl gave him purpose, a sense that his life had meaning beyond the streets. He found joy in her progress, pride in her courage, and a deep satisfaction in knowing that his knowledge and kindness were making a real difference. He had never imagined that his small skills and determination could bring such light into someone else's life. Days turned into weeks, and their secret sessions became a routine that both of them cherished. They laughed, struggled, and celebrated together. Each day brought new progress, small but meaningful, and each step forward brought new hope. The mansion's walls, once a symbol of isolation and control, now echoed with laughter and determination. The garden, once a place of solitude, had become a stage for friendship, courage, and transformation. The girl had found someone who saw her not as a fragile, helpless child, but as a person capable of growth, learning, and triumph. She had discovered a friend who believed in her, challenged her, and inspired her to keep trying no matter how difficult the journey. And in doing so, she had begun to believe in herself too, discovering a strength and hope that no wealth or luxury could provide. The father, still observing from a distance, could see the change. He didn't fully understand it yet, but he knew something remarkable was happening. His daughter, once quiet and hesitant, now radiated joy and determination. He remained cautious, still worried about trusting the boy, but he couldn't deny the happiness and growth he saw every day. The boy, with nothing but his heart, courage, and creativity, had begun to change everything. The girl, feeling stronger and more confident, realized that the world outside her mansion was not just full of danger or hardship, but also full of people who could inspire, teach, and help her in ways no one in her wealthy world had been able to. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would transform her life in ways she could not yet imagine. Weeks passed, and the girl's secret sessions with the boy became the highlight of her days. Each morning she would wake with anticipation, eager to meet him in the garden and continue their exercises. She had started to feel her body respond in ways she hadn't thought possible. Muscles that had been weak or unused were slowly growing stronger, and with each small success her confidence soared. The boy encouraged her at every step, never pushing too hard, always patient, always smiling, always cheering her on. One day, he brought a small wooden frame he had made himself. It had ropes and supports, something he called a balance helper. He explained that with this device she could practice standing without fear of falling. At first she was nervous, unsure if she could manage even a few seconds. The boy held her hands firmly, guiding her movements. She trembled and wobbled, but he never let go, offering words of encouragement and gentle laughs when she felt clumsy. Slowly, she began to stand without support for a few seconds, and the joy she felt was like nothing she had experienced before. With each session, her confidence grew. She began to believe that walking might be possible, that her legs might one day carry her. She laughed more, her voice brighter and more confident, and she started to share her dreams more freely with the boy. She told him she wanted to run through fields, climb trees, and explore the city on her own. He listened and smiled, telling her that dreams were the first step toward making them real. His belief in her became her belief in herself. The boy's story started to come alive for her as well. He spoke of his life on the streets, the challenges he faced, and the small victories he earned every day. She learned how he had helped his younger sibling walk again after an accident. He explained how patience, creativity, and determination were more important than any fancy machine or expensive therapy. The girl realized that life had lessons that money couldn't buy, and she was learning them firsthand from someone who had never had wealth but had plenty of courage and wisdom. Her father continued to watch from a distance. He noticed the changes in her mood, in her laughter, and in her confidence. He remained cautious, skeptical of the boy's influence, and worried about safety. But he couldn't ignore the transformation he was seeing. His daughter, once quiet and hesitant, now moved with a new energy and determination. She had begun to believe in herself in ways he hadn't expected, and though he tried to hide it, he began to feel curiosity and respect for the boy who had sparked this change. One afternoon, the girl asked the boy if they could try something more challenging. She wanted to see if she could take a few steps while holding onto his hands. He agreed, setting up the ropes and supports he had made. Her hands gripped his tightly, and with his guidance she lifted her legs one by one. She faltered and wobbled, but he steadied her, offering encouragement. Step by step she moved forward, her face lighting up with every small success. For the first time she felt the thrill of movement, of walking with her own strength, guided by someone who truly believed in her. The boy shared his philosophy with her. He said that the mind and heart were just as important as the body. Belief in oneself, patience, and courage could overcome obstacles that seemed impossible. The girl listened, absorbing his words. She realized that her mind had held her back as much as her legs had. She began to repeat the boy's lessons to herself, practicing determination and courage as much as physical exercises. She felt herself growing stronger inside and out. As the days went by, she began to take small, unaided steps. At first, they were just a few inches at a time, but they were steps nonetheless. Each success brought a burst of joy, not just to her, but to the boy who celebrated every achievement with her. They laughed, cheered, and sometimes cried together when progress was slow or difficult. Their friendship deepened, built on trust, hope, and shared effort. The mansion, once silent and stiff, now echoed with laughter and life. Her father, observing more closely now, could no longer deny the boy's impact. He saw the joy in his daughter's eyes, the determination in her movements, and the transformation of her spirit. He still worried, still questioned, but a part of him began to respect the boy's wisdom, patience, and heart. He began to realize that sometimes true guidance came from unexpected places, from people who saw potential where others only saw limits. One day, during their practice, she stumbled, but didn't fall. The boy had taught her how to regain balance quickly. She looked at him, eyes wide with wonder and gratitude. He smiled and clapped, telling her that she was doing wonderfully. That small victory, though simple, filled her with hope and excitement. She had overcome fear, learned to trust herself, and experienced the power of determination. Every moment of progress, every laugh, every shared story brought them closer and made the girl's world richer and more colorful. The boy also taught her about resilience. He spoke of the times he had failed, fallen, and struggled, and how he had learned to rise again. He explained that life was full of obstacles, but courage and persistence could overcome even the hardest challenges. The girl listened carefully, taking in every word. She began to see that her own struggles were not just about her legs, but about believing in herself and never giving up. With this new understanding, she felt more capable, more willing to try, and more determined than ever. The mansion staff noticed the girl's growing confidence as well. She smiled more, spoke more, and moved with a grace and determination they hadn't seen before. She began to engage more with them, asking questions and sharing stories. The boy had shown her that relationships, trust, and kindness were as important as physical strength. Her world, once limited to walls and safety precautions, was expanding, filled with joy, connection, and possibilities. One evening, after a long day of practice, she and the boy sat in the garden, watching the sun set behind the city skyline. The sky turned shades of orange, pink, and purple. She felt a sense of peace, of hope, and of excitement for the future. The boy told her that every sunset was a reminder that tomorrow brought new chances, new opportunities, and new successes. She smiled, feeling that each day with him was a gift, a chance to grow, to learn, and to experience life fully. Her father, observing from inside, could sense the bond between them. He realized that the boy had given his daughter something he never could with money or machines: belief, courage, and the joy of trying. Though he still felt protective and cautious, he began to trust the boy, slowly acknowledging the value of his guidance. The girl, with her newfound strength, had begun to transform not only physically but emotionally, and her father started to see the world differently as well. The boy had become more than a friend. He was a teacher, a guide, and a source of inspiration. He had opened the girl's eyes to a life of possibilities, teaching her to believe in herself, to persevere, and to embrace challenges. She had learned that success was not measured by money or machines, but by determination, patience, and heart. Every step, every small achievement, every shared story brought them closer and made life richer and more meaningful. As part 3 of their journey unfolded, the girl continued to grow stronger, more confident, and more hopeful. She had taken her first real steps both physically and emotionally, and she felt that her life was changing in ways she had never imagined. The boy had shown her that limits existed only in the mind, that courage could overcome fear, and that friendship, trust, and belief in oneself could transform even the most challenging situations. Together they continued to work, laugh, and dream, knowing that the journey ahead was full of promise and possibility. One bright morning, the girl was more eager than ever to see the boy. She felt stronger and more confident after weeks of secret practice, and her body responded to the exercises in ways she had never imagined. The boy was waiting for her near the gate, smiling and ready with the simple equipment he had crafted for her exercises. Today, she wanted to try standing and moving a little further than before. The boy encouraged her gently, explaining each step carefully, while she held onto his hands tightly, ready to give her best. As she lifted her legs, her body shook with effort, but she felt a thrill unlike anything she had experienced. Each step forward was a small victory. She faltered once or twice, but the boy steadied her and offered encouraging words. Slowly, she moved across the garden, feeling the wind on her face and the sun on her arms. Her laughter rang out freely, echoing through the trees. It was the first time she truly felt alive, not just inside the mansion walls, but in her own body and mind. Her father happened to walk past the window and noticed something unusual. He saw the girl moving with the boy's guidance, taking small but confident steps. Shock and disbelief crossed his face. He rushed outside, calling for the staff to follow, unsure of what he would find. As he approached, he saw the boy gently guiding his daughter and helping her maintain balance. He felt a mix of emotions, worry, pride, and a growing respect for the boy who had achieved what doctors and therapists could not. The father called out, questioning the boy and the girl. The boy explained calmly that he had been helping her gradually, teaching her exercises and encouraging her belief in herself. He emphasized patience, persistence, and trust. The father was skeptical at first, but he could see the joy and determination on his daughter's face. Her laughter, her confidence, and her courage were undeniable. He realized that the boy had unlocked something inside her that no machine or medicine could provide. The girl, sensing her father's presence, looked at him with bright eyes and a hopeful smile. She wanted him to see what she had achieved, to understand the progress she had made with the boy's help. Her steps became steadier, her movements more fluid. She felt a sense of pride and accomplishment, and for the first time, she wanted her father to be proud not just of her, but of the effort and courage she had shown. The boy continued to guide her, gently holding her hands and encouraging each step. He explained how balance, strength, and determination worked together. The girl followed his instructions carefully, feeling her body respond in ways she had never imagined. Each movement, each tiny success built her confidence and strengthened her belief in herself. She realized that the limitations she had felt were not just physical, but also mental. The boy had taught her to challenge those limits step by step. The father observed silently, slowly understanding the boy's approach. He had relied on machines, doctors, and wealth to try to help his daughter, but none of it had worked. Now, seeing the boy's simple methods and the girl's progress, he realized that true guidance sometimes came from unexpected places. The boy's patience, creativity, and heart had achieved what no amount of money could. The girl continued her exercises, taking more confident steps across the garden. The boy encouraged her, praising each small achievement and reminding her to keep believing in herself. She laughed and smiled, feeling the joy of movement, the thrill of progress, and the warmth of friendship. Her father watched, a mix of awe and admiration in his eyes. He began to understand that the boy's influence was transforming his daughter in ways he had never imagined. As the days went by, the girl's progress continued. She could stand longer, move further, and even take a few steps without the boy's support. Her confidence grew, and she began to explore the garden more freely. She laughed, played, and enjoyed her newfound strength. The boy's encouragement, guidance, and belief in her had made all the difference. He had shown her that courage, patience, and determination could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. The father gradually joined in the exercises, learning from the boy and observing the techniques he used. He realized that the boy's methods were effective because they focused on belief, persistence, and understanding the girl's individual needs. He saw the joy and confidence in his daughter's eyes and began to trust the boy's guidance. The mansion, once filled with silence and caution, now echoed with laughter, encouragement, and determination. The girl and the boy developed a strong bond, built on trust, respect, and shared effort. They laughed, struggled, and celebrated together, creating memories that would last a lifetime. The boy's influence extended beyond physical exercises. He taught her lessons about life, resilience, and belief in oneself. The girl began to see herself not just as someone with limitations, but as a person capable of growth, courage, and achievement. The father noticed the changes in his daughter and began to appreciate the boy's impact. He saw the joy, determination, and courage that had blossomed within her. He realized that the boy had given his daughter something more valuable than any machine or therapy: belief in herself. The father's respect for the boy grew, and he began to understand that guidance, wisdom, and heart could come from anyone, regardless of wealth or social status. One evening, the girl and the boy sat in the garden reflecting on their progress. The sun set behind the city, casting a warm glow over the landscape. They talked about the journey so far, the challenges they had faced, and the victories they had achieved. The girl felt a sense of gratitude, hope, and excitement for the future. The boy reminded her that every step, every effort, and every moment of courage brought her closer to her dreams. The father joined them, watching silently as his daughter and the boy shared stories and laughter. He realized that the boy had not only helped his daughter walk, but had also taught her lessons about resilience, courage, and belief in herself. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and respect, recognizing that the boy's guidance had transformed his daughter's life in ways he had never thought possible. The girl's confidence and strength continued to grow. She explored the garden with joy, laughter, and determination. Each step, each movement, and each achievement reinforced her belief in herself and her ability to overcome challenges. The boy remained by her side, guiding, encouraging, and celebrating every victory. Together they had created a bond built on trust, friendship, and shared effort. The father observed this transformation, feeling a mixture of awe, pride, and admiration. He realized that the boy had given his daughter more than physical strength. He had given her belief in herself, courage to face challenges, and the joy of discovery. The mansion, once a place of isolation and caution, had become a space of growth, laughter, and possibility. As part 4 of their journey unfolded, the girl continued to take confident steps, guided by the boy's patient and creative methods. She had begun to transform not only physically but emotionally, learning to trust herself, embrace challenges, and believe in her potential. The father, once skeptical and protective, now recognized the boy's value and the profound impact he had on his daughter's life. Their lives were changing in ways they had never imagined, and the future was full of hope, courage, and endless possibilities.